Peace unto you, peace unto you, welcome in, peace unto you, welcome in. This is our first gathering of the American year 2025. Today is of completion. Peace unto you. Nadiie, I haven't seen you in a while. Hey, we're always one with all, so you're included in that. We are very grateful to be here. Got some wonderful things to share with everyone in regards to processes on being, how to make being a little more comfortable. And one important question. This question is, since God has distributed, or as we say, since Source has attributed something to you, something. So you have scholars and people that claim to be experts. They bring forth their interpretation based on someone else's interpretation because man writes books. And what we understand is we can all agree on, all religions, all philosophers that understand some form of metaphysics understand that creating or destroying things isn't something that exists, even in science. And science has proved, and it's funny to even say things like this, that shows forth the Aquarius age we're living in, because essentially the Aquarius age is a consciousness that's formed, a collective consciousness, so all beings that are able to move around with some type of will, even if that will allows them to be dominant over another. For example, a pet. A pet allows its own will to be dominant. So, or a pet allows its own will, either way, to be dominant or to be dominated, one of the two. And when you see that form of consciousness, even you will see some humans that has that form of willingness to accept domination, or being someone that is so trapped in one particular area and refuse to leave that area, regardless of if someone tells them to leave or they of themselves choose to stay or leave. But you understand it's a staying because the resilience. One thing we can all agree on, though, all beings, is that the Source distributed something. Creator, Allah, God, it's all given something to what we see ourselves as they say, you know, the image of the Creator. Okay, if you're made in the image of the Creator, that is extremely important, because just as easy as the Source, the Creator, God, can be, let's say, extravagant and marvelous and metaphorical, that's what dream interpreters are for. Dreams aren't to be taken literally because the subconsciousness is so vast. It's not small to the point where something can be linear. It gets to a point in vastness of consciousness and vastness of concepts that to try to make this linear is doing it a disservice. To grasp the concept of that literally is essentially the concept of God. The concept of God is it was always here. Never was there a time it wasn't here. Even in your own books, you say God said, let there be light, meaning he was in the darkness. So meaning he was before light and dark. It's that simple. God can be as simple as it is creative, as it is metaphorical. That's why I tell people always, listen, don't trust the religions. Don't trust anybody's interpretation. If those peoples that interpreted it chose to identify as a human. Why? Even in their own books, they say Christianity is about following Jesus. Okay, then why aren't you pulling out your Bible, finding every passage that mentions him or where he actually speaks and create that Bible and only move by that. It's about him. No, it's about this overall control scheme. And they allow you to know and recognize, because we live in a world where God is, we can't tell you a lie. This is something that the quote unquote people that like to dig into stuff, the con and conspiracy and all of those type people, quote unquote, this is where they insert their ideation. But really look at what is a conspiracy. This is just truth. Go into what was considered conspiracy 30, 40, 50 years ago. 50 years ago. Just go. And then look at what's happening right now. So you're telling me that everybody that was talking about there being more than just this physical expression in reality, even though we proved it as a simple expression of you out your own mouth science, people said the tree is doing every single possible thing a human can do in terms of its functionality. That means the tree is a living being like me. You proved that through science. You told us when we were kids. Because also God can be simple. You cannot call God infinite and think it doesn't have the capability to explain something to a child. Don't ever look down upon God when you're not even looking in directions, because there is no direction in God. It's within you. Jesus said that out of their own mouths. That's why I'm just like, hold on. If y'all doing that, and it kind of trips me up because I'm just like, what? Anybody that understands what I'm saying, even on the smallest level, because out of their own mouth they say faith of a mustard seed. Even on the smallest of levels, if you really look at this, it's like, okay, I can tell on some level the question of what did God distribute to you when you first became aware? Because if you're made in the image of something that always exists, you cannot then be in a state of non-existence. Peace unto you. You can't then, by definition. This is the thing that trips me up about humans and beings that prioritize language and words. At the most simple level, and everybody hear me now. On the most simple level, we understand that we accept language due to our understanding of the sounds totally. If I sounded like this, if I sounded like that, but I had a community of people that associated each sound because it was broken up as intervals with a particular definition in people's languages, then, okay, that's more interesting. So this is what people have to understand about all of this. The question is, what has Source distributed to you initially? If we all can accept and remember the fact that God or the Creator or Allah gave us something in our awareness, for if we are made in the image of something that always exists, if we're made in the image of something that always exists, if we're made in the image of something that already exists, if we're made in the image of something that already exists and never will not exist, what is the definition of image? What is the definition of it? It's as simple as that. What do they tell you? They do. Hide the truth in plain sight. You know that's them telling you we're lying to you the moment they said, I can neither confirm nor deny. What? You know there's an actual experience in politics where that happened for the first time. And politics has been established for hundreds of years before that situation happened. Before a particular group of a government said, I can't confirm nor deny that. Huh? that immediately implicates you. That immediately implicates you as being involved. You don't say I can't confirm nor deny in your daily routine life. Don't sit here and lie. Out of your 24 hours of the day, how many times do you use the sentence, I cannot confirm nor deny this or that? When do we use I cannot confirm nor deny as a frequent form of establishing sentences through the vessel? When? So when that thing existed, when somebody decided to make that, okay, we understand y'all are a part of the issue that you're calling an issue because I'm using your language. At the very least, I understand the definitions of your language as words, and by your language's standards, this vessel that came from God understands that to be the truth is to say these words. Well, if in your own words, we all can establish on some minute level that we are either children of God, as some people say. Children of God. Okay, if we're children of God, and we view God as a mother or a father, when you establish I am a child of God, you're saying that, okay, what is a child? You have to look up the definitions of these words. This is how they trip you out. They got you on technology all day and you can't use your brain because you forget how the psyche works. You forgot that in the 70s and 80s, they were talking about A Course in Miracles and the government seized that book and supposedly Jesus helped somebody write the book. Oh yes, exactly the words I said because these words have definitions. You're like, dang, the government did what with the book and Jesus came back already? Yes. And it's not the Jesus that you know, because even in the story of Christianity, it's so funny. The being literally says the kingdom of heaven is within you, and the literal point of a crucifixion as someone that knows how to resurrect, and I astral project every single day, and I've literally met the being y'all call Yeshua, or Yeshua, or Joshua. I've met this being, or the Christ, as some say, because it's not just a being, it's a consciousness for Christ, or what you associate the energy of that. You just say that energy, I'm going to call it Christ. That's what somebody did, and now we're just totally accepting the word. That's how language is born. Okay, you're saying that that energy got obtained by a vessel that was birthed on earth. That's what you're saying Jesus is. If Jesus then had to pull from this external source by your own words and definitions, that external source at the very least existed before Jesus was there. So the Christ's been around. The consciousness, the energy of what the associated word for that energy is Christ is, that's been there before Jesus was born, for it was there when he got there to tap into, because out of their own mouths they say he didn't reach it until 33. So at the very least, Jesus from birth to 32, he was still thugging it out. And then 1 year, bam, I got it. Because that's how the psyche and the brain works. It's one moment. I'm a carpenter, doom, now I'm Jesus. I'm a carpenter, doom, now I'm Yeshua. It's a slight, subtle, or major change in your psyche, your consciousness. And at the fundamental, if you just study language and how language is formed and these sounds that's coming out of these things that science calls mouths and biology calls mouths, this sound is just a sound. But humans associate this sound with their what they call definitions. But this sound is lost in translation. This is why people, like they say Pluto, say remember more. And don't write things down. Pluto didn't want things to be written down. The philosopher Pluto, he didn't want things to be written down. If you study Socrates and Pluto and the people of that age and that time, they knew of the Atlanteans. They just knew of them. It's kind of like how people understand that there's a war going on in Gaza. You know how people just know that something is happening? You know, back in the day when it was like, oh yeah, slavery of the black people are there. Oh, and then, you know, the conquering of the Indians is there. You know how people way across the country, they just know it's there because word got around. But what can you actually do about it? We are living in times like that. You know, I remember I was talking with one of my old coworkers at this old job I used to work at. And she was like, I always wonder, and she's a black elder. She was like, I always wondered why white people didn't help us in slavery. She was like, I always wondered why white people didn't help us in slavery. And then, okay, maybe a few white people helped us. But why didn't the majority? Oh my God. She made this discovery on her own and chose to share it with me because you think I was randomly spiritual in my older years? No, I was born this way. My mother made sure to tell me, boy, me and my daughters prayed for you over my tummy. There is a reason you're born on 010101. There's a reason you chose to be on this path. My mother tells me all the time. My sisters be like, you're annoying, but we did do that. Because sibling rivalry, as humans say. So, I understand what's going on all the way. But if you if you really just look at it though, if you really just look at it and say, if they say a lot of things get lost in translation, and the sounds that's coming out of my mouth is being translated, and that's what language is, a translation, and from this translation, we associate a word, English, a word, Japanese, a word, so on and so forth. We associate a word to it, that means we're speaking a translation. We're speaking a translation of existence and how to interpret it. That's what we're going through. Right now, as you speak and decide to have a language, God just gave us the most wonderful download. Remember, I am a master teacher. I astral project every single day. Peace unto you. If you're new here, my name is Nadiie Black. I come from the Sikh Seeker tribe. Of course, that is just the vessel's pathway, but our souls are far more. Our spirits are far more. Hello, how you doing, my friend? Yes, we are very grateful. Grateful for what? To be God as you are. For there's a law of divination. I astral project every single day. A person named Ryan Cropper taught me how to do it on command, but I've been doing it since I was 7 years old. Remember, there are only, in certain people's ideology when it pertains to spirituality, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 as symbols. And those symbols have important meanings. And when we add the 1, 2 to formulate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, we understand, okay, that there's importance to numbers. That's what numerology is all about. That's what palmistry is about. That's what astrology is about. Astrology and all these things is about a form of numbers, or at the very least what numbers represent. Numbers are like an absolute. That's why there's only one right answer in math. And math is the study of numbers, or the interpretation of numbers. Either way, it's the same. In numbers, there are absolutes, and that's why angels and spirits, when they're trying to communicate to dense beings, may use numbers or things that have absolute assigned to them to deliver some form of message. For example, another absolute, because I know that already landed, but we got to land more because God is infinite. Another absolute is when you're seeing a billboard that is of material and not a digitized billboard. Whatever is on that billboard will never not be on that billboard unless you decide in some God almighty way to say, I want that billboard to say something else, or I need that billboard to say something else or show something else. Now, a lot of people can have that experience consciously, even though we move in and out of realities. Technically, we are going to a different location based on definition. If you are moving and jumping from reality to reality, as metaphysicists say, and all of that, then that means by definition, we're constantly changing environments. So by that truth, that means anything born from spawning in a new environment, i.e. changing what the environment is, because you're able to go to a new one if you don't like what you changed it into. Okay, that's a great realization. Hold on. That's where God is. And then you get there and you find out that that's another interpretation, though better than the last, as humans say. All right. What if I just be? The reason why I said, I need y'all to understand that There's a law of divination that says what you see is what you are, and what you are is what you see. What you see is what you are, and what you are is what you see. That's why the saying, you're made in God's image, exists. Because what is those words literally? By definition, you are that, or at the very least, you look like that, and that is that. Anyone that understands simplicity and that God knows how to speak with simplicity understood what exactly I said. Because it's not what you interpret as these words have these definitions, so by definition that sentence doesn't make sense. No, it's what you understood from the experience. And in that experience, the sound. And in that sound, you associate the word the, or that, or th, or the sound. So I said the word that more than 3 times or more. And we understood that that had a complete different experience definitionally from what the standard definitions say that that sentence is supposed to have. That is one easy way to understand on some level God does exist. Because by law of me using and by rules of me using this language, something like a phenomena can happen that the language itself can't describe. Because the way the language describes it is not how I experienced it. And just because the body and anything associated with the body or anything the body can produce, the brain is how you interpret, so anything the body can produce, even philosophies, ideations, ideologies, that's all from the mind. It's the psyche. Your body is doing that because your consciousness is not your brain. The brain is still a physical thing, a part of your body. You see somebody get their head blown off and you'll see brains gushing out. The brain is still associated with the body, and the brain can do these wondrous things. Peace unto you. This is the first gathering of our US 2025. Because remember, Ethiopia is either in 2017 currently or getting ready to be in 2018. And they supposedly have a very old version of the Bible. A well-known practiced religion over here of a majority. And when you just look at these things, right? This is another main reason why I say these things to you. Do you have a YouTube channel? Everybody click the link in my bio after this live. Everybody click the link in my bio after this live. You'll be pulled up to a link tree. Go through every single link. Because remember, God is infinite, literally as well. Because you can't say God can't be that, because that ruins the word infinite. The word infinite has a definition, which means there is never a run out. Every possibility, God can make it God. God can make any possibility and experience Godified. Boom, 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 boom. The Creator has made something Godified. Oh my gosh, shooting and fires outside. Boom, 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 boom. God came in the room. Godified. What is Godified? Then you have your humans always wanting to add and associate definitions to things. Oh, Godified, that must have a definition, so it only must mean this. That ruins the point of Godified. That ruins the point of infinite. That's why these words exist. God can quite literally teach you in any possible way. You can look at a gum wrapper and say, dang, I figured out what Jesus figured out. Literally. By definition of what the word infinite is, and omnipresent, and all of these things people associate with God, and saying it's all there is, and God is all the existence. One quick little note on that is recognize that God, or the source, or creator, or as we say in our language, Siksika, Pisasuki, which means creator, roughly. You pretty much always have to say the word roughly as you're speaking other languages, because it's a different experience entirely. You're just interpreting the experience differently. For if I just gave you that experience with what you call no definitions, you would have nothing to associate with that experience other than a definition. Even, oh, that's cool, are words with definitions. You quite literally, by definition, would have to hear me speak in a different language and literally forget it ever happened in order to not associate a definition to it. Definitions, when you're subscribing to a language, are on autopilot. And it's a spiritual master's job to say, hey, stop having the body and physicality on any level be on autopilot. Because the brain is still a part of the body. And the brain can access pathways to attribute itself to thought. That's what the being thoth was all about. That's why the word thoth, thought comes from. The being thoth in his emerald tablets supposedly sound very eerily similar to other masters that claim to be masters of masters. Yeshua isn't the only master of masters. The master of master isn't the body that he said, leave, be in this world, not of this world. Well, of this world, bodies are born. Why do you think he resurrected and took the body? To have you forget of the body's existence in that moment. Because the body doesn't matter. That's the point of Yeshua's resurrection. I always remind people, one day I astral projected, and since I have what spirits would call, and listen, I don't associate definitions with these words. DM me 33 to get the free 3-day course. DM me 33 to get the free 3-day course if you don't already have it. It explains to you how to become what people call Christ consciousness in 3 days. Yeshua, supposedly, with a book called The Course in Miracles, was channeling through a person that was a psychologist in some sorts. And yes, this person was hearing voices a psychologist is not supposed to. So she got her friends. Her friend said, before you diagnose yourself, listen to what the words of this voice you're hearing is saying, so we can find a way to diagnose you, because if it's suicidal, then that's a different issue. What is the voice saying? Because that's how you go through that process of diagnosing somebody. So she did get that far. And this is the story of Course in Miracles as quick as possible. Hey, hi, greetings. My name is Jesus. Yeshua, Joshua, Yeshua. He kept going. He kept saying names and names and names and names that people called him of his day. Because that's what masters do. You may know me as this, aka this, aka that, aka this. He did it, Yeshua, in a spiritual way. I have gifts, remember. Believe it, believe it. It's all right, read it. Why you think that God's gifts stopped at Jesus? What I say, peep the essence of the all. I love music. Go click the link in my bio after this and see the link tree. Click on every link, because God is infinite. There are infinite amount of ways I can teach you the same level of, wow, I can tell God is in that boy. There are multiple ways God can do that. There's infinite amounts of ways, and every single link that I have in that link tree, and some updates are coming soon, because my new game, oh my gosh, but the power of what humans call prayer, we say divine statements. YouTube University, we coded our own game called the Ethers. For the Ethers is a thought form realm. In the original periodic table of 36 elements, Ether was actually number 5. And there are stories of Albert Einstein actually attributing his works to Ether, but it was Albert Einstein and his wife, because more so than not, people don't understand, most of Albert Einstein's findings wasn't just due to him of his own. Even his own works said it came from elsewhere. His own wife was assisting him. At the most logical sense, a smart person of that level isn't going to choose to be with a stupid person, because that's not smart. And if we at the very least attribute smartness and intelligence to Albert Einstein, then that means his partner, if he chose to accept, because all people that understand the brain and words and language and psychology knows, in order to be in a relationship with somebody, you have to say yes or no. It's a choice. And if Albert Einstein is so freaking smart, as we as humans say, then his wife is as smart as him or more. And it must be more, because it's actually smarter to have a partner smarter than you. So his wife must have been incredibly intelligent, especially during the times where women couldn't even vote or had a hard time doing so. That just proves that they didn't care about women. Go back in Yeshua's time and figure out why everybody was in an uproar and called Mary Magdalene a slut and a whore when she was far from that, and she was actually initiated, when you study Egyptian ideologies and stories, that Mary Magdalene was initiated to be a high priestess. And that's why Jesus said, a high priestess, come on, let's show them how women could be. Because Jesus' whole point is, who cares about the body? If you tap into the consciousness on some level, man or woman, dog or bird, tree or me, if you go to God, bet we in God. That's Jesus' whole thing. Come with me or no. Nazareth, I can't perform a miracle here. Why? Why, God? Jesus yelled he was in a physical body. I'm channeling. I know how to do this. I have gifts. Why can't I perform a miracle here where I was born, in Nazareth? Well, I'm, the carpenter man. I'm help. Listen, Yeshua. God speaking. Listen, Yeshua. Listen, Jesus. Listen, Yeshua. Listen, Joshua. Whatever. All his names. Listen, Wanikia. Indians and native tribes. They know you as someone else. They know you as a carpenter. Humans have a hard time with doubt in your day, Jesus. That's what God tells Yeshua. Humans in your day. Because you have to look at the time frame. The reason why this is the Aquarius age is spiritual concepts are able to be grasped by us much easier than other consciousness and brains of older days and older texts. Now, there is a time where we were seemingly more advanced than what we are, but that's also an interpretation, because anybody is only interpreting the findings of history of those experiences, and historians themselves say good historians, or a certain type of historians at the very least, take out certain information about their experience, their history, his story, his experience. A telling of your experience is a story. And man has always been associated with dominance, so that's why at the very least the word his and the word story is now history, and they just make it sound faster, but those sounds actually have meaning to themselves. This is something that legal calls double language. Anybody that studies legal, they know what double language is and double speaking is. Any lawyer, if you have a lawyer, or if you know a lawyer or an attorney, ask them what double language and double speaking is, and they will laugh probably and say that's how bad people win cases. You must understand there are far more things to information than you may know. Just recognize that. For they even say when you connect with God, you start to say, hey, I thought I knew something, but I found out I know nothing. They even say that of their own. So what I ask and pose to you is this. DM me 33 and I will give you my free 3-day course, because I'm literally teaching you how to become what you would consider, or what a human considers, Christ consciousness in 3 days. I've taken it. I know what it is. Oh, he's so bold. Why would he even say that? Try it. Because by your own definitions, you would be foolish. An actual fool. Look up the definition of fool. It's far more than stupid. Because a fool is, I'm calling you stupid, but in your entire being. You would be a fool to not even look upon it and grace your eyes upon it. You would be a fool. Because they thought that psychologist was a fool for supposedly channeling Jesus and making the Course in Miracles. It's the same thing. Don't allow history to repeat itself. When such truth as you see with your very own experience, you see with your very own experience that I am the way. Quite literally. And if you do histories on Yeshua's gatherings, why do you think he called it the way? Because those two words have definitions. And once you attribute yourself to this consciousness, you're not copying that person. When you're at this consciousness, you just do things that way. For example, at the very least, if Diddy tells you to sign a contract, you're not going to sign it, right? Why? Because you don't do that, right? Why? Because that's who you are? You don't do things over there. That means at the very least, you can make a decision of your own essence, interpretation, ideology, psyche, expression, and say, hey, I want to live like this, and this is how I'm going to live. So when you accept certain forms of consciousness, be very careful what you ask for, not to scare you, but to understand that, hey, what if you turn into another Messiah? What happens then? Yes, I'm a Messiah, but by law of divination, you have to be one too. By law of divination, you have to be one too. It's as simple as this. To even be around Jesus at that particular time is considered important. Just as important. If it wasn't just as important, we wouldn't have been caring about it because Jesus is that. But hold on, by law of divination, even if what humans would consider messiahs to be singular and not in multitude or in groups, even if humans consider that, at the very least, you still have to agree, if people grace their eyes upon a messiah, those people are just as important, because what did he say? And how did you interpret it? And let's figure out the interpretation and the amount of different interpretations, if there are any. That's how people and psychologists study things. They study things on a minute level. Because if Yeshua, when you channel Yeshua, says it's all in your mind. Let me tell you a story about one day Yeshua came to me. And what you must understand about this story, I must preference this, okay? Preference this with truth. Which is, if you are channeling, I astral project every single day, been doing it since I was 7 years old. The elders of the tribe of Siksika initiated me when I was 7 years old. I'm a medicine man in our culture. Do you know how hard it is to be a medicine man? Do you understand at one point in time there was a medicine man a part of every single family? But for one odd reason, I will give you a rough translation of what a medicine man is in American terms. It's a pastor mixed in with a doctor, mixed in with a psychologist, all in one. That was a part of every single tribal family in the Blackfoot Confederacy or Blackfeet tribe, or what we call Siksika. Native Americans, American Indians. So, understand that there is far more going on than what you may know. Because by law of divination, the Aquarius age is us saying, hey, we're fed up with physicality and everybody arguing. Why is there left and right discussions? Why is there poor and rich, high and low discussions? Why is there duality, period? When I was born, I didn't sign up to be separate. God is one in all things. The question and intention, if you were here in the beginning, you remember I said this. The question and intention is when you were first in awareness of what and who you are. What were you? Because that is what will show you what God has given you. What has God given you? And if you accept anything from a societal standard or from society directly, that means any form of teaching from external means, even this one. You must understand God existed before this teacher chose to come out and say it again like every other Messiah. So, we're like, dang, so what do I do? That's what humans be like, dang, you said, don't even listen to you even though you're telling the truth. And I'm like, yes, every Messiah says that. You must have not listened to Malcolm X because he was the most recent Messiah. Martin Luther was a Messiah. Listen, there's no difference between Martin Luther and Jesus Christ. There is no difference between Malcolm X and Jesus Christ. There's no difference between Fred Hampton and Jesus Christ. These are Messiahs. And Messiahs are usually birthed through consciousness in times where the Messiah is needed. And humans have a hard time with disassociating a savior with a Messiah. There are two different things. That's why Jesus out his own mouth, if you go to the astral realms, then it's out his own telepathy, because they don't even use the mouth to talk. Masters don't have a body or associate anything with the body. Lips are literally associated with the body. I don't want anything to do with the body in association to how I express myself. That's how a spiritual master talks. And they don't take no for an answer. But then you're like, oh my gosh, he must have really met Jesus, because that sounds like something Jesus would do. Exactly. I met Buddha, I met all of them. And there's their consciousness. The form that you see is not that form, because that was literally in human years, thousands of years ago. And if you astral project from time to time, you will recognize that time don't exist, because 1 minute, one time could be 30 minutes, and the next time 1 minute. You'll time yourself and be like, all right, I'm in the astronauts for this long. Dang, I felt like I was in the astronauts for that long. All right, I'm going to do it again tomorrow. Well, I felt like it was the right time this time. What the heck? How do I have two different times? Because time doesn't exist. So, the thing with the astral realms, you must understand, they operate differently and exist differently. So Yeshua and all masters, they speak with telepathy. That's one reason why Socrates and Plato and all of them understood that you shouldn't even be writing things down. Because if you write things down, spiritually, you're not building on your power, and you're manifesting unintentionally a whole to physicality on even the most minute level. And even Jesus, Joshua, Yeshua, Ishua, Wanikia, they're all the same name, same person. Even that being of himself says be in the world, not of the world. Yes, you're in this world because messiahs need to be born sometimes in order to make sure you don't ruin things. And when messiahs are born, you're in the world technically, but messiah do not learn from society, do not be of the world. Messiah do not learn from this world, which means even on the most minute level, allow no one to teach you, for God has given you all already. That's God directly channeling through me. Remember, I said the word infinite, and we associate infinity with God. So you, on every level, you would be unintentionally saying you don't believe in God if you say what he said isn't the truth, because that's how the truth works. A truth trumps all things. A truth just is. That's how you decide, I'm not signing the contract with Diddy. I don't do that. I'm not signing the contract with Hollywood. I don't do that. There are things you decide to not do. It's a decision. Choices. You have a choice always. And you also have a choice to say, even though what I heard is truth, to disregard it. Because even that is an interpretation when you actually look at the story and concept of what a God is. And how both are important, the concept and the actual nature of something like that, even on the smallest level, taking form. Which is what people consider Jesus or Elijah or any of those things. Because even with Elijah Muhammad and all those people, and the people that created the Nation of Islam and all those ideologies, even they have to agree on the most minute level to understand what God is saying is a special vessel. Because if the vessel was not special, then everybody would understand what God is saying. And understanding comes from ears through biology. And you must hear in order to understand, or at some level understand how to define expression, even if it's a touch or any form of our senses. Because the physicality exists through senses. So we have to be able to define what the senses is and interpret it in such a way to where we would say, hey, on every level, even a soul level, I accept this as truth. That's how expression is made. That's what existence is. So it's like, all right, well, a vessel who is able to understand, understand, overstand on any level and withstand what God is and God's presence, and be able to hear it audibly or through an expression and feeling, and be able to deliver it through an expression where a community says, hey, they lied, but what you said sounds like the truth. In order for that experience for a person or multitude of peoples to even have, that vessel that allowed those people to say you're our leader must be special. So they even hear God is just as special as being birthed, like a Jesus, as they say. It's the same thing. To even be able to understand God, to talk about God, is just as powerful as being born with it. Because the times where the greatest masters were born in it, remember, Jesus isn't the greatest master because, oh, this is gonna really like expand your reality, crush it, bring a new one, and you're just going to be going in and out of realities, and then you have to make a decision and say, hey, I could just be. You must understand this. Jesus isn't a master of masters because of the word what you would consider special. Jesus isn't a master of masters because he's special. He's the master of masters because in his stories, he's the first one to accomplish that consciousness. That's why he's special. That, oh my God, no one has ever said that. Jesus is not a master of masters in their stories because he's quote unquote special. He's a master of masters because in his stories, he's the first one to find out and attribute himself to that consciousness that we now call Christ. And what I prophesize will eventually call truth. Just truth. Christ will be truth. Buddha will be truth. Everything will be truth. Christianity will just be called truth. Judaism will just be called truth. Buddhism will just be called truth. The Chinese religions will just be called truth. All religions will literally just be called truth. There will be no need for separation. They will all say in unison, I am the truth. And when you recognize you were never separate to begin with, for you've been living this way for the entire time, you just chose to not see it that way, then people be like, wow, enlightenment is that simple? Enlightenment is as simple as changing your perspective. It's that simple. And holding on to that perspective, but don't assign a definition. This is where you must take my 3-day course. My 3-day course, day 1 tells you lose definitions and descriptions. Stop describing things. Stop calling hair hair. Stop calling walls walls. Stop calling shirts shirts. Stop calling ducks ducks. Stop calling a duck of this. Stop calling a hand of that. When I raised my hand and called it a duck, why did you say that was wrong? Stop defining things. Lose descriptions. And B, what did God give me? Because it was not language first. Because babies don't have language. And humans or people with languages perspectives. It's the perspective of what he says. It's the perspective, trusting, faith, or surrendering. It's a question. You added a question mark, so that means it's a question. So the vibration of question is the perspective, trusting, faith, surrendering? Okay, because he sent it in 2 separate messages, so that's why I had to read it 2 separate times. You know, you got to think about things before you act, but because I'm teaching, my thoughts and my actions are simultaneous. What's happening in that recognizing and knowingness, because the fact that you were able to understand the words that came out this person's mouth, this vessel's mouth, the Messiah's mouth, as you are, you must recognize the truth and you must be the truth for the divine law. What you see is what you are is what you see. There's 2 of them. It's not, to answer your question, it's not trusting and it's not faith. Y'all can even see in my golden videos when I first went viral, how to properly use Palo Santo sage and everything like that. If you go down that, what humans would consider time frame of when I was posting videos, you would recognize that I carried a theme, which is don't believe nor have faith in God, for you must know in God. Don't trust God, you must know in God. If I say you do not blink, you're going to look at me up and down and say, I blink all day. What are you talking about? There are things that you as a vessel and you as a mind and a spirit that controls the vessel says, I will not allow you to manipulate me on this topic, which is the blinking discussion, because I'm blinking right now. But if I told you you're not blinking, you will be like, I am blinking. That means you have a capability of denying something completely. Why don't you do that about God? What is the issue? That's when humans' doubt is now exposed to them. That is called a tower moment. That is called a shadow death. You're going through an ego death if you still have an ego. I'm just talking if you already had that and you're done with the ego completely. But recognize that when something dies, you don't have to resurrect it, because resurrection is the thing. Because even Yeshua, part of people's own studies and stories, prove that death isn't real by way of coming back. That literally, if you come back after death, that means what we think is death and the definition of death doesn't exist. If one person does it, that means it doesn't exist, because guess what? Guess what, people? Guess what, people? Why do you think they say numbers are associated with the universe? Why do you think something like numerology even exists? Numerology, why do you think it even exists? It doesn't exist because numbers are necessarily important. It exists because of what the expression of numbers give off, like every other thing, like mathematics, which is the study of numbers, which is there's an absolute. An absolute is the reason that that word absolute has a similar expression. The expression of absolute is there's nothing else that it can possibly be. And in mathematics, there's only one right answer. In mathematics, there's only one right answer. So when you're dealing with God, in some sorts, you have one right answer. So why are you able to say unconditionally, without any conditions, and you accept truly your words entirely, hey, I always blink, to a question, in other words, in a response to a question of you don't be blinking though, do you? Or a statement of somebody saying you don't blink. Why don't you associate that energy with God directly and say, there is no possible way that someone is able to waver my perspective in any possible way of the source, the creator of existence. And guess what, everybody? Truth is not something that a lot of people are interested in. Truth isn't something a lot of people are interested in. Why? To be interested in something is a choice that one makes, typically on average, if they currently aren't already interested. In truth, totally, if you unconditionally have a perspective revolving around the source where I'm not going to do anything but admit the truth as it pertains to this topic of God, of the creator, of Apitsuki and Siksika, the Blackfoot language. Okay, then you have something there. That's a Messiah, as we call it. Do that. You're saying Messiah is that simple? Why are you saying God is hard? Because by definition of the word infinite, God should be able to be easy and hard. And you have the choice to interpret it. Who does it? This is gonna blow y'all mind. I'm gonna scroll up because I see the comments are let's go. Oh wow, yeah, wow. This is funny. Why? Answer this. Remember, though I'm a master to you, I'm a student to the source. Again, though I'm a master to you, I'm a student to the source. So I'm still teaching as it's teaching me to teach you. I'm in the existence of teaching. In the existence of teaching, you learn something. True teachings does not come from memory. That's what Socrates almost got right. That's what Plato almost got right. That's why they're not here and people didn't adopt their philosophies totally. You know what the truth is when it lasts. Even in memory. So the fact that they're here, on some level, they were telling the truth. They just didn't connect more dots. But remember what I said, it's extremely important. You must know, we are already in this. The simple fact that you think you exist lets us know that you were already in the Aquarius age. Even the people of Jesus' time and Buddha's time was in the Aquarius age already. They just didn't know it. And humans at those particular time frames have a hard time with allowing things to be one. They simply want to compartmentalize and separate and bring dualism. That's what humans of those times did. Today, we have an easier time with saying, I would rather be in unison rather than be in separation. Well, be in unison with what? Be in separation with what? By way of understanding what being in unison is, there is no with what. Because the word what has a definition and the word with has a definition. If you're in unison, there is no with or what. There is no other than union. What do they say even in marriage? You are joined in one, in union as one. The point of a union is to not involve yourself with separation. People tend to forget that words have definition. And they told you the easiest way to hide something is in front of your face. They tell you the definitions of all the words, but they guide you to becoming persons that do not attribute seeking. It's that simple. Seeking. Humans don't seek. When's the last time you went on a research-a-thon and researched every single thing you heard, every single video you've watched? Be honest with yourself, God's child. Be honest with yourself, God's child. Be honest. Even through prayer, or as we say, divine statements. Whenever you heard something and went directly to God and say, God, I don't want to use technology to figure out this answer. Please tell me, is what he's saying true? Do it right now. Just do it. It doesn't hurt. Because confidence is also in truth. You have the confidence that you know you're telling the truth. Because liars are not confident in their lies. That's why they always change them. They say a good liar even tells the truth. A little bit. Because the truth is just the truth. It trumps a lie. That's what court cases show. That's how government is formed. That's what rules and laws are literally for. That's the definitions and the expressions and in essence what a law, what a government, and what a rule is. Look at the definitions and how these words are used. Look up these things. A government, a rule, and a law is expressed to be, hey, it ain't nothing else rather than this. And if you go outside of this, you don't have this anymore. Because if you do it one time, it's over. That's one of the main reasons why Jesus out his own mouth in your own stories say, or Yeshua out his own mouth, or Waniki, or Joshua, or Yeshua, whatever his name is. They're all the same person. Birds of a feather flock together. If it looked like a duck and it quacked like a duck, probably a duck. This is why he understands we don't have to attribute separation to ourselves on any way, shape, or form. We don't have to be of this world in any way, period. So even though what you may hear is the truth, even disregard that because you're hearing it in a limited expression. Jesus himself, oh my God, that's a great download. Yeshua the Christ, and remember, when I say the word Jesus or Yeshua, whatever, y'all must understand, think with your spiritual mind here. Those vessels do not exist anymore. Those vessels, even scientifically, if you don't want to get spiritual, even scientifically, the body of Jesus and the body of Buddha and the body of Sun Wukong and the body of these beings do not exist physically. So any physical expression of the body is just that, an expression, an echo of what you thought its physical form was. Because physicality exists in the physical reality. So once you can't find the Jesus body no more, once you attribute the body as being taken with him, and the body is no longer in this physical existence, when you say things like that, that immediately disproves so much with how people interpreted physicality to begin with. Why do you think Yeshua himself said the kingdom of heaven is within you in Luke 17:21? It's within you. Because even in the books of lies that they call religions, the good liar tells you the truth sometimes. So yes, Christianity has truth in it. Yes, all religions have truth in it, but good liars tell you the truth sometimes. So it's good for you to metaphorically look at everything and take everything with a grain of salt. Even this teaching here. Because you're hearing it, at the very least, you're hearing it with what you think is a physical expression. Until you totally eradicate your perception of physicality, then you listen to this recording again. Click the link in my bio, look at the link tree. Every single link leads you to God. Click all of them. Don't just click the YouTube link because you're associated with loyalties to the brand YouTube. What did Yeshua out his own mouth say? First, seek the kingdom of heaven. Last time I checked, seeking isn't walking in one direction only and saying, all right, I figured it out. Why do you think Yeshua is known around the world? He practiced what he preaches. People that argue with me and say that I lie don't understand what Yeshua says and doesn't understand fundamentally that Yeshua practices what he preaches. A person that says first seek the kingdom of heaven means he traveled the world. That's why he's known around the world. That's why he has so many names. Jesus, Yeshua, Ishua, Joshua, Wanikia. Because he traveled the world. Why do you think there's shrines of Mary Magdalene and she supposedly rode with him? Because when she was in her heyday, she was in Egypt. So that means every other time when they linked up together, Jesus and Mary Magdalene, wherever she was, he was, because all the disciples and everybody rode with each other. And even when they had to separate, they still knew how to astral project and still hold gatherings. Remember, God is infinite. You're not about to sit here and tell me that Jesus himself didn't teach every single one of his disciples, not just the 12, because there was way more women, because during those times, women didn't have rules and rights. So because women didn't have rules and rights, they didn't have the ability to say yes or no to a rule. The people didn't care about their existence, period. It was easier to teach them about God because literally society abandoned women during those periods of time. So Yeshua had far more physical women as disciples than men, but towards the 33, he had an equal amount of women and men. What you would consider as the crowd of Malcolm X and the crowd of Martin Luther would be 10 times the amount that Yeshua had during his heyday. Yeshua affected that many people because he traveled the world and did his speeches just like Malcolm X, just like these speakers. So, and this is all in their stories. This is in their stories. What I'm saying is if you study their religions, that's what their religions say that he did. When you study their philosophies, or you track through smartness, ideation, recognizing philosophy, doing what they say do, when you understand, okay, you're like, okay, well, by those definitions, Yeshua will be doing this. Because that's the Messiah frequency. From age birth to 32, Yeshua was a Messiah. At age 33, he became the Christ. A Messiah and a Christ are different. That's why they're different words. So, first, to become a Christ, you must be a Messiah. Well, what is Messiah? One who knows. Okay, well, what does one who knows mean? Speak with absolutes. Okay, what does speak with absolutes mean? Without question. Well, how do I do that? Say the truth, because the truth is that. In your world, they have built the physical expression with foundations of duality and dualism, separation even. So it's harder for some and easier for others, and you always have a choice whether to tell the truth or a lie. And God is just the truth. There's no reason for a lie. I was so actually hilariously in a position of laughter when I made a video on this here page on TikTok that says Satan isn't real, for the simple fact that if God is all there is and there is no hate in God, then, and God started first, if the Creator started first, by simple expression, by simple connecting the dots, then anything other than that doesn't exist. Even those words. So forget the words other than. Because the truth always exists, which is God. Because if you pray right now to what you associate to God on any level, you're not feeling immense fear. Even the most heinous people pray. Mobster movies show that all the time. Of the mobsters going into the confessions and confessing to the person of a particular religion, because even on the fundamental level, they understand that God shall forgive this. So they abuse that rule, the dark, as humans associate that type of ideology and action with. So, as you understand all of these things, we rest with this. Understand, DMing me 33 if you haven't already received our 3-day course. It's extremely important. Just know that. At the very least, it's only 3 days. If you can't dedicate at least 3 days with God, why are you trying to join any form of union, even with yourself? It's as simple as, if you already have the 3-day course, just look over it again. Just look at it. Because the course literally says, get away from me, literally as Nadiie, get away from me, go to God. The course literally tells you, I'm going to teach you how to go to God, because I understand the truth so much. I understand that me as Nadiie is minuscule in this big idea. Minuscule in your own human words. Of course, since I'm connected to the Spirit, to God directly, to be able to interpret it, I'm what humans would call special. Just because I'm special don't mean you have to accept everything that I say with crazed deliverance. You still have to be your own person. Allow nothing from the external, because at the very least you view me, or even on the smallest level, as a external being, because you're using the two eyes to see me, unless you're using your eye that's single. And if you're using your eye that's single, then disregard that, because you're seeing us as one. Even though that's the case, recognize that because you're a master, there may be people that are still walking that journey to be where we are at now. So you have to be able to figure out how to talk to them and share. Because if Yeshua never spoke, if Buddha never spoke, if any special person never spoke, would you have known? Because the definition and expression and the energy of speaking and someone that has spoken isn't moving the lips. It's understanding expression. Or at the very least, just expressing. So it's important at the very least to just express yourself, because you're made in the image of the Creator. What does express yourself mean? It's your choice, because God is infinite. That's what I mean in another way as loose descriptions. There's something that we can just say, hey, have at it, partner. A perfect expression of that to really land the point is the game Minecraft. You might be like, how do you can associate with this? Remember, question it, but don't say it's not possible, because you literally associated the word omnipresent and infinity with God. That means any possible way you're experiencing that could lead to God could lead to God. So question it to figure out if it does or not. And if it lands for you, good. If it doesn't, throw it out and listen for the next one. Especially if it's a being that is a Messiah, as you are, which this is, this experience. Being a Messiah isn't the vessel is something now. No, being a Messiah is the vessel has now guided you to a, what you would consider environment, a controlled environment where the truth is. That's what a Messiah is. An easy way to explain that is, how do you think Martin Luther King had so many people gather to one location? He, in his Messiahness, say, and the same thing with Malcolm X, he in his Messiahness says, come to this controlled environment. And in this controlled environment, there is foundations and intentions of truth, and only the truth. What do you think this is right now? People, I need you to understand the importance of me right now. This is not for ego, but this is just for the record things, because this is my very first class of this year, and I don't want anybody to be like, oh, he didn't tell me. I need you to know who I am. I'm more than just the names Nadiie and of the Sikh tribe. I'm more than this. God literally moves through me, for it is me. As it is you, for there's laws of divination in place that say what you see is what you are is what you see. To even prove that point even further, at the very least, you have to say, to even know about someone that claims to be Jesus and his stories and what the definitions are in association with the word Jesus, with him being a master and a Christ. The fact to even know of that being, the fact to even know of a Buddha, of a Gandhi, of a Malcolm X, of a Martin Luther. Martin Luther and Malcolm X are very close. The fact to even know about, even in our time, a Yaqui awakened, in our time, a Nadiie, in our time, a you. To even know about us is important. And you're saying all of us is that? That's what the Aquarius age is about. That's union, that's oneness. That's, hey, I'm reminding you that the moment Jesus was born, the moment that consciousness came into the planet, and this is in his stories. I'm going to show you other stories. The moment that being, that consciousness was formed, and every human born after him was saved in the concepts in the stories. Well, applied, remove the word Jesus and insert word Buddha. Remove the word Buddha and insert word Elijah. Remove the word Elijah. And you can go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Because the Messiah is not the vessel itself, it's the expression. That's why you're able to remove the word and insert new word which represent a person, because it isn't the person that's the Messiah, it's that person attained the Messiah. The Messiah is the sentence around the person's word, which is their name. Jesus did this. Martin Luther did that. They're all the same. You can remove name, insert new name, and their expression is very similar. Oh, you find out it's the exact same. Because messiahs are messiahs no matter how you shuck it or jive it. So, I must tell you who I am. If you need a little bit more. Need a little bit more than he literally just said he's God. What more do you need? Come on now. I literally just said you are too, because laws of divination, so you have to be. And proved it even with that. So now you're recognizing yourself more. You're like, hold on. He just proved to me why he's born on 01010 and why he somehow, some way chose this path. The path that he's on and teaching it with the words that he's deciding to allow his vessel to utilize isn't natural sentences that come out of the typical person, because if that was the case, everybody in the world would act like this being that calls himself the way, Nadiie, which is me. So on some level, if you understand that, you also know that I just told you that everything that you're seeing in me is who you are. You just put a load of responsibility on me, partner. That's what they say. A load of responsibility. You're associating being a messiah with responsibility. Why do you think Buddha laughed all the time? And in the stories, supposedly, when he woke up from his day's meditation in front of that tree, he said, "Where's the food? Where's the food at?" That's the stories. Buddha was like, "I'm hungry," when he woke up. Well, that's why monks laugh all the time, because they understood that story and accepted it like no other. I speak from experience. I literally see monks when I used to work for a particular company in my older jobs. And monks walked in. And I was like, whoa, monks walked in. And it wasn't a normal corporation establishment that deals with medicine and stuff. Like you probably go to one if you're trying to get a little bag of chips. But I'm not going to say their names because their names aren't important. I don't want to distract people. It's on a most, even on, that's a spiritual level, but even on a business level, don't promote people that don't have your best interests or don't have the truth's best interests. That particular company that I worked at was going through a time where, or a moment where its own employees were striking. Yeah, it was very bad. So you have to get comfortable with not even promoting with your own mouth. You don't even deserve for your name to come on my mouth. You have to be able to do that and not be in ego as you do it. That's called denial. You have the way of denial is extremely important. Even the Course in Miracles talk about it. Deny. You must be able to deny things. If you cannot deny things, you're not going to be a Messiah. For example, Martin Luther King had to deny racism in order to be Martin Luther King. Malcolm X had to deny Elijah Muhammad and the leader of Nation of Islam in some way if they weren't telling the truth. Even his last interview, you can look it up on YouTube, says out his own mouth, I might get killed for the things that I'm saying because I didn't leave the Nation of Islam. This is Malcolm X saying this. Go watch it. He said I might get killed for the stuff that I'm saying and the accusations I'm putting upon Elijah Muhammad of having children and wives and punishing them and abandoning them. Because if I did not leave, as Malcolm X, he says, I did not leave the Nation of Islam. They kicked me out. If you get kicked out of something, you still have the ideology of it. Just because someone says your title is not that title doesn't mean your brain hasn't spent 30 years programming yourself with that religion. That's what Malcolm X said. Because he's smart enough to know he had to program himself because he liked the Nation of Islam programming. Because it benefited him for his particular path. But even in that, what makes him a Messiah is recognizing that. I'm not going to be totally programmed. I'm going to allow you to think I'm programmed. That's the power of Malcolm X. That's the biggest difference between Malcolm X and Martin Luther, if you didn't know. Malcolm X was a Messiah from jump. Martin Luther did not become a Messiah. I repeat, Martin Luther did not become a Messiah until the latter years of his life, right before he got shot. Martin Luther was so distraught over Malcolm X's death and was actually in an equation and equating to that expression that he was experiencing. He also was on pursuit of more information for his people, that he said, okay, I'm gonna go to Africa where Malcolm X went and study there and come back and deliver to my people. And when he did that, he started to make this march. It was put in all the publications, the news. Look at the story. This is history of Martin Luther King. This is history. This is not spiritual airy-fairy. This is history. Look it up on your internet. This is history that they do not tell you in schools. This is Martin Luther's history. He did not become a Messiah in the beginning of his life. That's why he was so paraded. That's why Malcolm X was so quick to call him a clown. That's why Malcolm X was so quick to call Martin Luther King a clown. Because in the beginning of Martin Luther's reign, he was not a Messiah, but he was clowning. But he did become a Messiah, so hear me now. Though he was clowning, though what Dr. Umar would say he's cooning, he still ended up becoming a Messiah, which means he had the right intention. When Malcolm X got clapped, and during that time frame, Martin Luther was traveling to different places to learn. Africa was one big one. He came back to America and said, I want to have a movement, another march. I think they call it the Poor Man's March or something of that nature. It's the Poor Man's March. I'm going to explain to you what this march is. Just look at that. Look up Martin Luther King's last speech where he says, I feel I led my people into a burning building. Look up Martin Luther burning building speech. It's around that time when he made that speech, because he made that speech to lead. Look, when he made that speech, this is history. If you look on your internet and type in Martin Luther King burning building speech, when he made that speech, he became a Messiah. As he was making that speech, as he was speaking that speech, that's when Martin Luther King became a Messiah. If Malcolm X was alive and heard that burning building speech, Malcolm X would have been like, come here, my brother. You've decided to stop clowning. That's how powerful and that's why it's not taught in schools, the Martin Luther King burning building speech. Because what did he do right after that speech? He said, we're going to go on a march on the front lawn of the White House. And none of us are going to leave, or at the very least, the front line of any major political system, their front lawn. And say, all thousands of us are not leaving until we get a good paying job and a house. Did y'all hear what I just said? You're like, Martin Luther made a march like that? That's a Malcolm X move. Exactly. Malcolm X was always a Messiah. Martin Luther did not become a Messiah until his burning building speech. Because right after that speech, he said, a Messiah works through action. This march was in the newspapers. This march was publicized. This march, hear me now, people. We shall go on their front lawn and demand a job in a house. Like that's, Martin Luther was promoting this march and got clapped when he did it. That's when he died. Because he became a Messiah. Because the government has Messiah rules. But now in the Aquarius age, what does the government do when everybody is a Messiah? Insert the law of divination. You are what you see what you are. People, we love you. Click the link in our bio. It's our link tree. Click every single link because God works in every single way. DM me 33 to get our free 3-day course, because if you can't dedicate at least 3 days with God while you're trying to join a mystery school. With that being said, this is our very first gathering of the U.S. year 2025. We are very grateful for you. We love you. You know I'm the truth, baby. You know I'm the truth, God's child. God told me to tell you. That's our slogan for the year. Remember, the ethers is a thought form year. The ethers is the thought form realm. Because we're in this realm this year. Understand, we are releasing a game called The Ethers. A mobile game releasing on Android first. Android first. End of January. New mobile game. The Ethers. That teaches about God. The description of the game literally in the Google Play Store and all of the app stores that I choose to send it to eventually, iOS and PC and all the other ones. Around March is where and when those games will be released on those platforms. March. In March, I want to release the game on iOS and PC and, you know, the whole shebang. First, for January and February, we're just going to rock out with Android because most of the world has Androids anyways, especially during the iPhone crisis. So don't be so brand loyal. And understand, even on the smallest level, there's a $20 Android phone. I bought a $20 Android phone. So at the very least, you can spend $20 on fast food. You can spend $20 on a little Android phone to support God and delivering truth to the people that associate themselves with being gamers. Because God works in every single way, including games. The actual description of the game is spiritual mastery in game format. The Ethers is a wonderful story. It's a fun game. It's a challenging game. We love it. Just got an Android. Exactly. If you can buy fast food, if you can take a broad out and spend $300 on a dinner with a broad, or if you take your family out, your family, your friends, and spend hundreds of dollars on meals, you can buy a little $20 Android phone and support the Ethers, because you know that it's created by someone that you just seen with your own eyes and experience is God. And he did the most godly thing, which is call me God too, because that is something God would do. That's why the saying made in the image of even exists. So yeah, you can buy little Android phones for $20. And my game is so beautiful. It does not take too much to run. I actually am using a cheap phone. Even though the phone is the 2024 model, it's relatively cheap. Relatively cheap. It's the Moto G Play. The phone I'm using currently is the Moto G Play, the 2024 model. The phone I'm using currently, the Android I'm using currently, is the Moto G Play 2024 model. The 2023 model, I heard was dookie. I heard it was dookie buns. I heard the 23 model was dookie buns. Even the YouTubers that was in the tech world reviewing the 2023 version of the Moto G Play was like, this dookie buns. Okay. Motorola say, y'all not about to keep disrespecting me. That's what Motorola say, y'all not about to keep disrespecting me. They dropped Moto G Play 2024 model. Recalled the 2023 model. Everything the reviewer said, or at least most of what the reviewer said to implement in the phone to still keep it at that price point, they implemented it. The Moto G Play 2024 model, I'm saying it not to promote it. I'm not sponsored by them. I'm saying it because I have the phone. Because it was a cheap phone. Relatively, it was a cheap phone. And you can find a phone even cheaper than that. If Motorola has a cheap phone, you can go to Motorola, you can go to Samsung, you can go to anybody that has cheap Androids. Buy one little $20 phone, this game will be able to run it. Remember, since this is the ending of the class, or the resting of the class, as we say, or conclusion, as some philosophers say, God said, Nadiie, you better tell people who you are and how to find you and how to reach you at the end. I was like, all right, I got to do the self-promoting thing, but you must know where I am. Because if I say I'm always with you, you must recognize I'm in you. We're here. We love you. Click the link in the bio. That's the link tree. Click all the links. The link tree will be updated soon. I'll download iOS in March. Perfect. We're very grateful. We are very grateful. Remember the Ethers. The game is very beautiful, very fun. Remember, God can be fun too. Look, this game, mark my words, this game will have more of an impact than Fortnite, than Flappy Bird. This game will have more of an impact than Flappy Bird and Fortnite because of what it represents. And when I say more of an impact, don't think I'm saying the word better, because the word better is subjective. I can say that something is better, like being a Messiah consciously every day of my existence is better for me, but somebody just may want to be a person that works out with being a bodybuilder, right? It doesn't make what I do more better than them. As long as you dedicate yourself to something and deny other things, that fundamentally is the same thing as being a Messiah. So, I gotta do this little part before I head out. Make sure you share everything, all the links you see, share. You can donate in the links if you so choose. Thank you for all the donations that everybody has distributed. Remember, at the very least, your presence here is a donation, because you're donating energy to me, because you're spending energy to listen to energy. So it's a symbiotic, coexisting, plural, oneness, whatever words humans want to use in order to have the point land. You understand that on some level, the truth is just the truth, and I like hearing the truth, even if I have to be in expression where I think I'm hearing it. So, share all the links. Before you share me as Nadiie, as the page, of course share the ethers everywhere, because that exists on its own. The point of gaming is to share and have as many gamers as possible. The literal point of making a game is to share it. So if you look at it from that perspective, even from an intellectual perspective, you would say making a game and teaching about God, even if it's subtly, is actually glorious. The proof of that actually working is, Dragon Ball Z and Black Myth Wukong, the game, and the anime is actually based on the Asian mythos, religion, spiritual of the story, which is Journey to the West. Why do you think Dragon Ball Z is monkeys? Saiyans are monkeys. And Goku is who he is. And why do you think Black Myth Wukong literally telling you verbatim or as close as you can get to it and still make it fun? Because God can also be fun. The Journey to the West story. In Black Myth Wukong, they literally talk about Sun Myth Wukong. So they literally are telling you everything that you need to hear in terms of the words, but the actual story is just gamified. And look at what history records Black Myth Wukong as the game broke. It broke, from my understanding, that game, and this is important because you must know as a spiritual master that God can teach in all things, including gaming. And I'm not saying go play Black Myth Wukong. I mean, if you want to, go right ahead. But the point is, the moment you add something beyond God, creator, spiritual, into something, anything, gaming, add God into your cooking, speak over your food, say happy things over your food, add God into anything. Speak God into your food. Say God over food. Like, put God into anything. Gaming, Black Myth Wukong broke almost every Steam record in terms of sales and volume, because it incorporated spirituality. That's proof, finite proof, that God could be in anything, including gaming. So, also note, even though this is my first class, officially, of the US year 2025, I posted 6 videos of the ethers on this page. That is equal into what this format of teaching is, but know that you have the will to say, I prefer this format rather than a gaming format. Never lose your preferences. Never lose your preferences. So click the link in the bio. Make sure you listen to that 3-day course if you don't have it already. DME33, we love you. Share the ethers everywhere. Share the ethers everywhere. It's going to be coming out end of January. It's a game. You're going to love it. It's going to come out Android first, and then iOS and PC later. We love you. Peace.